Welcome back to Sound HR. I'm Tania Harland and I'm the founder of HR Diagnostics. Today's episode is for anyone who's seriously considering stepping away from the corporate world and into HR consultancy, or who has already taken that leap and is quietly thinking, why does no one talk about this bit? I'm absolutely delighted to be joined today by Caroline Watkins, who's the founder of Harbourlight HR. Caroline is just 3 months into her consultancy journey, and I want to start by saying a huge congratulations to Caroline, because leaving the security of the corporate world and backing yourselves takes courage, clarity, and a real leap of faith. Welcome, Caroline.
Thanks for having me.
Today we're talking honestly about those first few months and what they really look like, and all about the mind shift, the learning curves, and the foundations that you need before the winds start to land. So my first question for you today, Caroline, is all about you and about your kind of HR background, the roles you've come from. So give us a bit of a snapshot about you.
So, I've spent about 20 years working in HR in different organisations, starting in graduate recruitment, in-house generalist HR, and then financial services. And really, I've been, over the later years, specialising in business partnering, employee relations and employee experience. And I guess I realised pretty quickly that compliance isn't the boring bit, really. It's the bit that stops businesses blowing up. You really want to get involved as a HR professional in protecting the business, but also taking a fair and reasonable approach for employees. So, I've had quite a few years in HR.
Excellent. Brilliant. Just it is what you need when you go into the consultancy world, is that solid background and experience in HR. So what was the point where you realised corporate HR was no longer right for you and actually you wanted to delve into the consultancy world?
Yeah, I suppose it was in the later years in my last organisation when I became a bit more senior. I got further away from that hands-on work with leaders, like working in partnership with different leaders and employees, solving business problems, people problems. And that was the bit that I really enjoyed. And I wanted to get back to that, helping solve those problems, giving leaders confidence and clarity. So I left partway through 2025 and I decided to set up Harbourlight HR.
And so that experience really shaped your next steps, I imagine.
Yeah, I was seeing, good leaders getting into avoidable trouble and in the corporate world, and that wasn't really because they didn't care about their people. It was really that they didn't have the knowledge sometimes, or they didn't have the confidence in how to have sensible conversations, or they didn't have the time to do the right thing consistently. So I wanted to set up Harbourlight HR to kind of close that gap, especially with leaders in smaller organisations where they perhaps don't have the usual resources that big corporate organisations have. So helping them feel informed, confident and sure of their decisions, and able to communicate sensitively before issues escalate.
So from your perspective then, what do you think has been the biggest mind shift moving from being an in-house HR professional to an independent business owner?
Oh my gosh, it's been massive, the jump, I think, because you're owning everything, really. You're not referring to your marketing partner over there or your finance manager or, your IT support. You are everything. And so that's been a massive learning curve. But I must say I've really enjoyed it. It's not just about the HR advice, it's about all those business skills that you need. And I've had to start thinking like a strategist, a marketer, IT support accountant, all of those things that you need to do when you set up a business. And I've absolutely loved it. It's been a big learning curve, and I don't think the learning curve will ever end. There's always going to be something I need to think about as a business owner. So it's been, big mindset shift, that's for sure. But I'm loving it so far.
And you get so much variety from it as well, don't you? That's what I love about it. Yeah.
Definitely.
And so out of all of those kind of aspects, what is the one thing that you found the most challenging or the most difficult, would you say?
Oh, gosh. I think it's been, for me in these early days, it's about positioning myself and getting out there. So it's not entirely within my comfort zone, and maybe most people who make this leap's comfort zone, to kind of go out there and start marketing yourself and publicising the fact you exist. I think that's the most difficult bit that I've encountered so far in the journey, is like stepping out my comfort zone and putting myself out there. And I'm still working on that, refining that. It's nowhere near perfect right now, and it probably never will be, but I've got to kind of have the confidence to get out there. It's that marketing side, I think, has been the most challenging bit, because there's so much noise out there. In terms of marketing. So I've got to really find my niche. I've got to really target my ideal customers in the way that will help add value to them, solve their problems.
And so in terms of positioning yourself, you've just mentioned that in a busy, noisy consultancy market, what have you been thinking about what your USP should be?
So I would probably describe myself as really practical, people focused. I like to work in a partnership. So, really getting to know the business that I'm in and making a difference, joining the dots, not just sticking to my narrow HR swim lane. So that's where I think I can add value to small businesses going forwards. And in particular, I really love helping organisations make sense of tricky employment law and HR policies and turn them into real solutions that actually work day to day, helping them understand that. So bringing clarity to what may on the surface look like a tricky issue that a leader hasn't really dealt with before. And I love being hands-on and collaborative, whether it's, helping small businesses that don't have that HR function or stepping into a bigger organisation, perhaps to give extra capacity for a temporary period or extra specialist expertise for an employee relations case or change program, that kind of thing. So basically, it's all about making my clients' life as easy as possible and bringing clarity so that they can create brilliant workplaces where their people can thrive.
Yeah. And just to kind of follow on from that, it's also about collaborating with each other in the HR consultancy world. And, when you think about, say, take a complex ER case, you kind of just need somebody who's going to investigate the grievance or disciplinary, that person to be different than the person that actually supports with the disciplinary or grievance. And then there's always the appeal stage as well. So I just think there's such an opportunity as HR consultants to actually collaborate with each other on an associate basis and provide that support and be sounding boards for each other as well. It's really, really important.
Yeah. And actually, I thought, will it be lonely leaving the corporate world, going from a big HR function to myself, me and I on our own, me, that's it. And actually, it's not lonely at all. There's so much support from other HR consultants, different partnership schemes that you might join or, different networking groups you can join with HR professionals. So you can have those head in hands moments and sort of laugh, cry and everything in between.
Yeah.
But also, collaborate and perhaps deliver a really great product offering to be it an ER case like you describe or some other sort of training or development. You can collaborate. And most HR professionals are very much up for collaboration, which is brilliant. That's what I found in this short time since leaving.
So you mentioned about real human solutions. Talk me through what you mean by that.
Yes. So I suppose my specialism within the HR field is this employment law and employee relations piece. So recognizing that the law sets the framework, and as we know, there's lots of change going on right now with the Employment Rights Act 2025 implementing itself over the next, more than a year, I guess, from now. But that's the framework, and it's really about people's experiences determining the outcomes. So I'm setting out to help my clients make those fair and lawful decisions, but without losing that human side, without losing empathy. So that could be through better conversations, clearer processes or policies or approaches, or managers that are, upskilled and confident and capable who feel supported rather than exposed with some of the trickier issues that the law might present in their organisation.
Yeah, makes sense. So in terms of your learning curve, you mentioned this earlier, it's been a steep learning curve over the last 3 months. And you mentioned about marketing. Is there anything else that you found challenging? I mean, I personally found the whole kind of finance side of things probably my Achilles heel, but yeah, anything else that you would say has been a steep learning curve and something that you think would be important to kind of raise for future HR consultants leaving the corporate world and joining the consultancy world?
Yeah, a couple of things. I suppose when it comes to finance, definitely. I mean, I could probably manage the basic bookkeeping, but I'm not an expert in the tax and all of that side of things. So I've got my right-hand man or woman, there to help me with that. But I think one of the things is technical skill set, because when you've worked for such a long time in a corporate world, and I've been in a large organization for a long time, there are certain elements of employment law that don't apply when you're always working in the same environment. So I've had to kind of refresh my knowledge of employment law as well, and make sure that I'm aware of how it affects smaller businesses, what little nuances there are. So that's been really fascinating to delve into the technical details of what I've been practicing for such a long time, but only been practicing in one environment. So I've really relished that opportunity actually to dig deeper into employment law and make sure I'm up to date on everything that's changing right now.
And you very kindly piloted HR Diagnostics for me at an early stage, which I'm so grateful for. All your feedback and kind of testing it and ripping it apart and refining it. And talk me through what your first impressions were.
Yeah, I could see straight away how it helps organisations get a clear, objective picture of their landscape, what's working, what's missing, where the risks are. So that's really great because you can use the report outputs that it creates as a brilliant tool to sort of develop the relationship with your client as a consultant. It's fantastic that it's really clear with a radial dial. And I think that really helps me to help, I guess, sell my services into the client and help develop them to be a great employer, filling in all those gaps where they might be a little bit exposed from a legal perspective. So yeah, I really enjoyed pulling it apart. I love to know how things work. So it was great to be behind the scenes, piloting it and testing it. So
Yeah.
thanks for having me in that group.
And has it helped you feel clearer or more confident in terms of how you explain value to a prospective client?
Yeah, definitely. So especially in these early stages, setting up my business, I'm kind of nervous and tentative having conversations with prospective clients. But I think this gives me a really clear way to frame those conversations, because I can be confident in the outputs that HR Diagnostics is giving me, showing the client's strengths, gaps, really pinpointing exactly how I can help with the action plan. So I think it definitely makes explaining my value that I can add to the client's workplace, that much clearer through delivering higher value advisory work, which is, I guess, a more concrete conversation to have with them. So it's definitely given me a lot of reassurance.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. And so in terms of HR Diagnostics and the impact, the way that you'll work with your clients, talk me through that then. I mean, how does HR Diagnostics impact and support, I suppose, the way that you work with clients?
Well, I think it's a game changer. It's so comprehensive with so many audit sections, subsections and questions that it's super comprehensive. I don't think if I was to probably design one myself, it would be that comprehensive. And if I did, it would be such a time-consuming manual process. And this puts it all into a structured, repeatable framework. So it gives you an instant insight into where a client's risks and gaps really sit. So that means then I can focus on advising and embedding solutions rather than, chasing up documents or answers to the questions back and forth on email. So it keeps it all in one safe portal, and I can track their progress as well as they go through and answer the questions. And so I think that's really quite a game changer, really. It really saves me so much time, which means I can focus on more like the prevention side of things with my clients, implementing the right policies if they haven't got them in place, building leadership capability through training, or, embedding best practice, whatever it is that their action plan suggests that they need to work on. I could be focusing my time on that rather than the manual back and forth of the audit itself. So it takes all that heavy lifting out of my calendar, really, and lets me spend more time on the value add. Quite a game changer. And I'm hearing similar sort of thing from other HR consultants who've enjoyed the experience so far too.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. That's really, really good to hear from my perspective. So I'm interested to hear about your kind of long-term goals. You've been set up for 3 months now. Where would you like to see Harbourlight HR in, say, 12 months' time?
Well, I suppose if I can be seen as a go-to partner for organisations that value their people, that would be brilliant. If I can be known as a calm, steady, guiding light, that's, I think, what would be really pleasing in 12 months' time. Kind of taking the worry away from smaller organisations who perhaps don't deal with tricky issues day in, day out, like some big corporate clients might do. I really want to be known in the small and medium-sized enterprise world as the HR partner that brings that calm clarity. And, if I can help solve their tricky people issues that might be keeping them as leaders, MDs, CEOs, founders, keeping them awake at night, if I can solve those problems, then, people in their workplace will be happier at work. That means their businesses will be, more productive, more profitable, and they'll grow. So that'd be amazing. I think the journey will take a lot longer than 12 months, to be honest, but if I can make some small progress towards that goal of being seen as that trusted, stable partner, calm, credible, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, and I can vouch for that, knowing you, Caroline. That describes you very well, calm, stable, and so they'd be in very safe hands with you.
Thank you.
So in terms of, I know you've been doing a bit of research about partnering and using tools and, the HR community and networking, that type of thing. So what support tools and community have been most valuable so far for you?
A mixture of practical tools like HR Diagnostics and other partners out there in different spaces. They kind of give me the reassurance that I have some HR tech, I have some tools, I have some templates, I have some structure behind what I'm offering, but also in combination with the HR consulting communities that I've come across as I've kind of been researching this. I think that's the perfect combo, really, to give me the confidence and reassurance that I can definitely do it. I can make it work. So partnership communities associated with, partnering schemes, Breathe HR, for example, the Hire Full Partner community. And there are other sort of groups and academies and networking groups that I've come across. The combination of that community where I can sense check, am I on the right track thinking about this particular product or offering, for example? The combination of that community with the actual technical tools and HR Diagnostics being a prime example makes me feel confident going forward in this leap from corporate world to consultancy.
And just before we finish, just one final kind of point. What would you say to an HR professional who's capable, experienced, qualified, but they're hesitating to take that leap of faith leave the corporate world and join the consultancy world?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I'd say trust your experience, because there's probably so much you've learned from previous work experiences in different companies. Trust that experience. You've got the skills. Now it's about mindset. Really start small, build confidence, lean on all that support in the various communities. Everyone's so approachable, friendly. No question is a stupid one. If you connect with somebody and ask them for their advice, everybody's been so willing so far with me to help me on my way. And really, it gives you the chance to focus on work that feels meaningful. So yeah, go for it. Take control of your own impact. It can be challenging at times, but it's incredibly rewarding. So yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Oh, it's been amazing talking to you, Caroline. If any clients or business owners are listening to this and they think this is just the kind of steady, capable person that I'm looking for, how can they find you? Presumably on LinkedIn, your website?
Yeah. Have a look on LinkedIn. You'll find me there, Caroline Watkins at Harbourlight HR.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me today, Caroline. If you're listening and thinking this feels uncomfortably familiar, that's exactly why this conversation matters. It's about building confidence, clarity, incredible way to show value before that you get that first contract signed. That's where the right tools, framework and support can make the difference. And I think as Caroline's drawn out from this conversation, actually the HR consultancy community is incredible, very supportive. Thank you for listening to Sound HR, and I'll see you next time for episode 7.